Hello and welcome. This is Business Incorporated coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Chimeze Obi-Iwagu. On the program today, South Africa enters into a recession for the second time in a decade. Kenyan government to offer $750 million in guarantees to Kenya Airways' existing creditors to help the heavily indebted carrier secure financing from other sources. Plus, Equatorial Guinea signs a production sharing contract for offshore block EG-11 with U.S. oil major ExxonMobil. Let's get started now with the markets. And here in Africa, the South African markets are in the red as the country enters into recession for the second time in a decade. The news comes not long after two ratings agencies downgraded a portion of the country's sovereign debt to junk status. Analysts had expected a better performance. They predicted a slight expansion of South Africa's economy. But in the event, it shrank by 0.7% in the first quarter of this year, following on from a fall at the end of last year. The JSE index was down 0.52% at intraday. Now, here in Nigeria, profit-taking took the center stage at the equities market as short-tenured investors decided to exit after the bullish run. The NSE All-Share Index was down 1.64% at intraday. Egypt was up 0.89%, while Kenya closed down 0.30% on Monday. And in the Middle East, the Qatar stock market remains weak after Saudi Arabia, Egypt and the United Arab Emirates severed ties with Doha. But the drop slowed from Monday's 7.3% plunge to 1.56% at intraday. Gulf markets in general have a soft tone after global bourses dropped, partly because of the Gulf tensions. However, Dubai was up 0.15%, Abu Dhabi down 0.54%. Now, analysts say any losses in Saudi Arabia may be limited by expectations that MSCI will start on June 20 the process of upgrading Riyadh to emerging market status. Hopes for this have buoyed the Saudi market in recent days, but at intraday today, the market relatively was flat at 0.05%. And in Europe, markets opened marginally lower amid a political rift between Qatar and several other Arab countries, and as investors took a cautious approach ahead of a general election in the UK and a European Central Bank meeting. Let's talk more on these with my colleague in Frankfurt, Conrad Bussen. Now, Conrad, the Gulf crisis is entering the third day and rocking the markets in the region. Is this development filtering into other regions, oil and beyond oil?
Absolutely. This is having an impact and is getting to feel also here in Europe, because there are companies, of course, which are immediately involved, like large oil and gas producers like Total and Royal Dutch Shell, which assist Qatar in exploiting some of those huge natural gas fields in the Persian Gulf. Then there are German companies like Deutsche Bank and also Volkswagen, where the state of Qatar is a huge shareholder. So, of course, now some people here on the trading floors wonder whether, if this crisis aggravates for Qatar, the Emirate might be forced to sell some of its shares in, companies like Deutsche and Volkswagen. And then there's the overall impact, of course, on the speculation about how this will play out in the oil market. Let's not forget, we are talking here about countries which are all OPEC members, not only Qatar, but also the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Iran. And now one has to wonder whether this organization, which once used to be a cartel, still is functional, or whether, all of the countries that agreed to those production cuts will eventually really play by the rules or not.
Really, that's a question that needs to be answered. And of course, looking behind you there, we can see the DAX nosedive. That shows the sentiment the market has taken this day. Yeah. All right, let's look at the ECB meeting that is being expected. It's the final 72 hours to that key decisions. What's happening in the countdown to June 8 as fresh Eurozone economic data came in on Monday? We seem to have lost Conrad there, but we'll get back to him as soon as we get through. In the U.S., the stock index futures pointed to a lower open today as traders reacted to escalating tensions in the Middle East and awaited the testimony of former FBI Director James Comey. Tuesday, we'll see job openings and labor turnover survey data for April released at approximately 10 a.m. Eastern Time. The U.S. quarterly financial report for the first 3 months of the year is also due at around the same time. Looking at those numbers there, we'll see them all in the red, with Dow Jones Industrial Average down 0.13%. S&P 500 down 0.13% also, and Nasdaq down 0.05%. Those are the futures numbers. In Asia, markets traded narrowly mixed today following the lower close on Wall Street and as markets digested the impact of diplomatic tensions between Qatar and other Middle Eastern nations. Now, Japan's benchmark Nikkei 225 index extended losses to close down by 0.95%. The Australian ASX 200 tumbled 1.52%, driven by broad declines in the utilities, financials and energy sub-indices. Major banking and resource stocks traded in the red. Markets in Greater China were in the green. Hong Kong Hang Seng Index erased earlier losses to trade higher by 0.54%. The Shanghai Composite closed 0.35% higher, and the Shenzhen Composite gained 0.54% to finish the session at 1,810.80. And South Korean markets are closed for Memorial Day. Proud seem to have Conrad back there. Thank you very much for coming back to us, Conrad. Well, sometimes technology can actually disappoint. Well, we were talking about the ECB meeting, and that's the final 72 hours to that key decision. What's happening in the countdown to June 8 as fresh Eurozone economic data come in?
Are discussing more and more what to expect from the European Central Bank's Governing Council, which is going to meet not in Frankfurt this time. This meeting on Thursday will be one of those occasions when the ECB Council schedules its meeting in another Euro country, and this time it's Estonia, the capital of this beautiful Baltic country. Tallinn will be the place where the European Central Bank's Council will get together. Of course, no one on the market at the moment really expects a major interest rate decision, but every small hint about future monetary policies, whether or not the European Central Bank, for example, considers to eventually, somewhere in the future, taper it's a very generous monetary policy. This will have the potential to influence the markets. Of course, next Thursday also will be the day of the general election in the United Kingdom as well. And even though the UK doesn't take part in the euro, the European Central Bank is likely to do everything, of course, to keep the markets calm as well.
Right. Thank you very much, Conrad. We will just have to leave this conversation here. I hope to see you again tomorrow. And of course, we're looking forward to the ECB decisions this week. Thank you for your time.